Okay, Mr. Phobes here. Before we get into doing the color study, I'm going to talk about making color groups, which is going to be really helpful. So, this study is our prismatic colors. This one is our muted colors. This one is the chromatic grays, and this is the high key or tints. So what I've done is I've made a color group right now that has my 7 prismatic hues, and here they are right here. Um, the way I make this is I go to the little icon here, which is a folder called New Color Group, and I'm going to select it, and then I can name it. And I'm going to name this one the high key because I don't have that made yet. And then I'm just going to go OK. So if I hover over this, you can see that this one is the muted, this is the chromatic gray, and this is the high key. So because I want to uh, desaturate these prismatic colors, I'm going to start with the colors that I've already created. I've created global swatches here. I'm going to talk about how to do that. So I'm going to start with the bird here. And so I know that's going to be made out of my yellow. So I'm going to select the yellow. And then because it's a global color, it starts out seeing what's called the tint slider. But I go to the little hamburger over here and select CMYK. And that shows me what it's made up of. So I want to make a muted color. So what I'm going to do is I need to add its complement, which is blue. So a muted color is 90% of the key color and 10% of the complement, right? So we know that the complement is made of 100% or 1-to-1 cyan and magenta. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in 10% of each, and I'm going to reduce the yellow to 90. All right, and you can see what it did here. Okay, so what it does is it changed this little swatch up here. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to select this, and I'm going to drag it down to my muted, um, and then I'm going to double click it, and it's going to bring up this dialog box. It gives me the formula. Oh, there's let's get rid of this. We don't want, it should be 0. Okay, I don't know why it's coming up 01, but it's very little, it doesn't matter. Um, and then I could also call this, chrome yellow, something like that, so I know what it is. But I want to select this. I want it to be global, and leave it as process color and go okay. All right, so now that's going to be this color, and so um, all I'll have to do when I select this is then select the swatch. So I've already kind of colored these, but I'll show you how this works. So I'm going to continue building my swatch libraries. So again, um, I need a muted blue, and here's the blue right here. So I select it, and I go to the CMYK slider. Because the blue is made of 100% cyan and magenta, I'm going to reduce these to 90. And I'm going to add 40% of its complement, which is yellow. I'm sorry, 10%. All right. And then here it is up here. I'm going to drag it to my folder. I'm going to double click it, make sure that the formula is correct. And then I'm going to make sure that it says global. I'm going to go OK. All right. So I'm going to go through and finish this, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so you can see I've got all my swatches lined up. There's just one more I would need to do, and that is the tint of the violet here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to select the prismatic color, and because it's a global color, it already has the tint slider. So I just slide this. This is adding white to it. That looks pretty good. I can always change it later. And then I take this and then I drag it to the folder. All right. Now, it put it in right next here, and I actually want them lined up over here. So I can change this arrangement. I go to the list view, and then I come down here and I just click and I drag it and reposition it. Go back to there. So now I've got them all in the same order. It's not necessary, but it makes it real quick to look at them. So here I've got my list of yellow greens. um, just in terms of again, messing with the formulas, one thing I wanted to show you is that it works really easy if it's a primary or secondary, but if it's an intermediate like yellow green, this is how you have to change the formula. Okay, so I go into the hamburger here. All right, so I wanted this one. There we go. So I wanted the yellow green, which is made of 50% cyan and 100% yellow. So if you remember, we want 90% of the key color and 40% of the complement. So in order to do that, I'm sorry, 60% of the, well, if we wanted to do the muted, we wanted 90% of the key color and 10% of the complement. So this is easy. We're going to change this to 90, right? But what we need to do, so we've reduced it by 10%. So we actually need to reduce this one by 10%. So 10% of 50 is 5. So we're going to reduce it to 45. And then we use 10, right? So that makes the formula work, and then that's how you get that muted color. So when you have the intermediates, it's still reducing the key color by 10% and adding 10% of the complement. So that's how you do it. You take the one that says 50%, and you take 10% of that away, which would be 5%, so that equals 45%. Okay. All right. So there's your color swatches. All right. So we'll see you in the next video.